Hi, my name is Mia Smith. I went to San Diego State for tennis.
So, Mia, take us back to your junior career. What type of tournaments did you compete in? Was it more nationally, internationally? Where did you train and who was your coach?
Yeah, I had quite a interesting route as junior for sure. I think I played mostly international ones, and not too many national. I tried to avoid them. Just enjoyed the traveling, I think.
Yeah.
But I had a coach from home pretty much my whole way until kind of like Tennis Europe age. And then I had a year with a traveling coach where I purely played ITF. So that kind of set me off on that route. I think once I got started, there was kind of no going back. And then I went to Bath. So quite a few of us, I think, went to Bath.
Yeah. And did you feel like US college was always, an option for you? Or was it at a certain point you were like, okay, maybe I want to try the college route instead of going pro out of juniors?
There was definitely a point where I was like, I'm 100% going to college and I don't want to go pro. So for me, that's quite lucky because I think a lot of people have a lot of time where they need to figure out what their route is. But essentially after that year traveling, I was like, if this is what it takes, I'm good. So I decided for sure I wanted to definitely go to US college. I think for me, it was more of a selfish kind of like, oh, I can get my degree for free type thing. To be honest. So it wasn't necessarily just based on tennis. I was just like, I will happily keep playing, but not quite to the level that I had kind of grown up imagining I might.
Yeah, I feel like, also traveling as a junior, it's such an isolated world. Yeah. Allowing yourself to have, a life outside of tennis as well at college is something that we didn't really get as much as a junior when you're traveling all the time. So would you say that was age 16, 17, you kind of was looking at the US college route?
So I think it was when I turned 14. I was
okay, so early on.
Yeah, I went to Bath for my last 4 years of school. And I think it's important to say that when I was traveling up with tennis, I wasn't in school. So I think that had a big impact on my experience, probably because I was quite isolated. So I think it's quite a unique, maybe, kind of feeling to have. But I would say it's quite unusual for people to make the decision that early.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and then I kind of knew for sure I want to go to America. I had been lucky enough to go there with traveling and I loved it. So that was easier for me to also feel comfortable going there.
Yeah, for sure. And how did you meet Pippa and get involved with Stars and Stripes?
So Pippa, she actually is from area not too far from me in Kent. So I grew up just knowing of her. And then I can't remember what age she was, but she was a county cup coach for maybe like under 16s, under 18s, or county week. I can't remember, one of them.
Yeah.
And so I was quite familiar with her. We got on really well and we'd been on a few of the county week trips together. So I knew of her. And then I think, I don't want to be like I was the first, but I think I was one of the first when she started the business. And I just felt there was a few other people doing it at the time, but I was just most comfortable because I knew her so well.
Yeah, and definitely I feel like county tennis is the closest thing in the UK that we have to, like the team tennis environment in US college. And I think if you enjoy the county events in the UK and county week or winter county cup, that kind of thing, then most likely you're going to enjoy more the US college system and the way that tennis is set up out there. Okay, so as you began the process, kind of what help did you receive from Pippa in terms of maybe creating a video, what you wanted from a uni, personal profile, help with talking with coaches, that kind of thing?
Yeah, honestly, she was amazing because I didn't know, although I was new from an early age, I want to go, I had no idea where to start, what that even meant. I was like, do I apply to the uni and then they tell me if I get in? Or I had no idea. I wouldn't even have thought about kind of going straight to the coaches. I hadn't even, gone that far into the thought process. But she was great because I think we actually have to start doing it quite early, don't you? Like lower six, is it?
Yeah, I think it might have changed now since when we went to uni, but I think you have to start doing the process like pretty early on.
Yeah, and I think I would have for sure missed that mark, but she knew that I wanted to go, so she was on me like, this needs to be done by this date, let's get this out. So she was amazing, and with the video, I think she organised the entire videographer. That's like the most awkward thing ever is that video anyway, but
yeah.
But she was like, you need to do again like a minute on this, like kind of constructed the entire thing. So I wouldn't have known any of that for sure. And then when it came to actually where I wanted to go, I knew that I'd done a lot of time on the East Coast with tennis. So I knew I wanted to be on the West Coast or Middle America, but I was kind of like, I know personally that I would probably feel more stuck if I was in the middle, just because I like the beach.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to go to California, like classic little blonde girl, like love California.
Yeah.
So I, kind of always had that in my mind. And she actually Pippa was great. She was like, well, don't rule Florida out. There's still some great unis there. You've been there, but it's a big state, so don't rule it out. And then I essentially told her, well, she sat me down and was like, what is your criteria? What matters most to you? Whether like coaches, team, the standard of tennis, location. And it was really good because again, like I was 16, 17 when we started doing this. I'm not, going to sit myself down and have that conversation. So it was really good to actually figure out what I wanted. And I think that makes it so much easier to narrow down your selection.
No, for sure. I feel like also it's kind of daunting when you look at first at America as a whole. They're like just variations of schools. Like there's massive schools, there's small schools, cold weather, hot weather. And I feel like these things make such a massive difference in terms of like, do you want to prioritize academics, tennis, or do you want to have a good time? Like what do you want to get out of it? Because I feel like it can vary massively also, just even state to state, like just going from so
like 20 different cultures in all that in one country.
No, for sure. So you mentioned visits. Did you go on any visits? Where did you go? Did you narrow it down to 2-3 schools?
Yes, I did. So Pippa, again, like she has the emails of all the coaches, so that just made it so helpful. And then I'm pretty sure she did all the intro emails, and then we would kind of take it from there. Obviously they want to hear from you, not her. Continue the conversation. But she approached loads that kind of a lot of the ones that I had said I liked, and then a lot of ones she thought to just throw in as well, just to make sure that I really saw the full picture. And then I spoke to quite a few. There was some that immediately I was absolutely not. I did have a call with quite a few of them, and I think I'm quite a decisive person, so I knew quite quickly whether I was happy with the coach or I wasn't going to gel well with them. So then when I went on my visit, I went to University of San Francisco, obviously San Diego State, and University of Kansas, which was one of those ones that was quite rogue, and I never would have, for me, chosen to go there, but I loved the coach so much. Whenever I was speaking to him, he was absolute babe. So I was like, for sure. And to be honest, they pay for the whole thing, so go to as many as you can. You have a great time.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you can talk to these coaches as much as possible, but at the end of the day, when you're actually physically there and you can see like the atmosphere, see the interactions of people, I think that is the best way to go about it, because you could get on really well with the coach over Zoom, or it could seem really perfect on Zoom, and then when you actually go to the university and you see something and you're like, okay, I don't like that, I can't see myself here, I think that's the best way to go about it. So I agree with you. I think if you can go on as many visits as possible, I think you should. Definitely. So out of those 3, why did you pick San Diego?
I mean, it's San Diego, but I will go into more detail. So I went to Kansas first, and to be honest, I wasn't even like, other than loving the coach, I wasn't that excited about going. I think there was a girl on the team, but it wasn't in my head like top of the list or anything. But when I got there, they were just so lovely, they really take you in, and like they obviously want to sell it to you, so they show you the benefits. But the facilities there, I think they had indoor tennis courts because it was quite cold, which again was never going to work for me. And they had the most amazing like indoor football fields and like facilities, gym. It was so great. Especially when that was my first one, because I think you don't have anything to compare it to. You're like, oh my god. And after going to the others, it was pretty great. And then the actual uni was like Hogwarts, and I was actually like, oh my god, I love it here. And I think, you know, you usually the coaches won't tell you this, but the girls will usually take you out for like, or the boys, and out when you're there because you stay with something. So anyway, loved it, and was then thinking, oh, maybe this could be a potential. Then I went to San Diego, and it's like the best place in the world. I just immediately fell in love. And also one of my criteria for when I was speaking to Pippa was, you know, I don't want to go pro with this. I you know, will do what it takes to get through, but I'm not someone that's like excited to train 6 days a week for like X amount of hours, and you always go over 20 hours just to as a warning to people. So I kind of said, you know, I don't want a coach that's expecting us to like win conference every year and like be, you know, pushing us go. So that was quite a strong bit for me. So anyway, this coach from San Diego, who was my coach for 4 years, was, you know, a harsh coach, but far more mellow than I think some of the stories that I've heard. And really lovely. So I gelled really well with him. And then just the facilities there, I mean, I can't speak highly enough of it. I think, you just, if you go to San Diego, you'll just know.
Just like the overall vibe, basically.
Just insane. And then San Francisco, I went, and to be honest, the uni was fine. Like, it wasn't great, wasn't bad. I saw the dorms and they were horrible. So I would say always try and look at the dorms. Because that was like absolutely not, like I felt like it had rats in it. And then, sorry.
No, I mean, I think it is so important because, again, like as you said, they are trying to sell you the best parts. So if they can avoid, like, if the dorms are really bad or if the food in the cafeteria is really bad, make sure you go to those places, because that's where you're going to be spending majority of your time. So I think that's like vital, basically, to go over. So San Diego was kind of love at first sight. And would you say that once you were even there, you felt support from Stars and Stripes and Pippa in terms of checking in with how you were doing?
So I was lucky. My mum wanted to come with me on the trip, but otherwise it was like, I'll come, of course. But so I went with my mum, but Pippa was like literally in constant communication. How was it? What was the coach like? How did it kind of compare to what we had initially thought it was going to be? So she was great, fully supported. I think there was quite a few things I wasn't sure about throughout that I was probably didn't feel comfortable asking the coach or whatever. So I just asked her, like, hey, is this normal? They said this. So it's so helpful to have someone that just knows everything.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of like having a mentor that you can go to and ask all the questions that you can't necessarily find out through like admissions or something like that.
Exactly.
So outside of tennis, with the process of choosing your major and what you wanted to do after college, how did you kind of come to that conclusion of, okay, this is what I want to study? And then after speaking about that, what was the process in coming back? You're in London now. What are you doing? And just take me through that.
So I think in America it's weird. You can go in undeclared, can't you? So I found that super strange, and I found the whole process of like having to do a variety of subjects, like kind of like GCSEs, very odd. But you get 4 years of like fun and sun, depending on where you go. So it's good. So I knew from the get-go I wanted to study economics because I did that for A-level. And so I do think it's easier when you're coming from the UK and you've kind of already had to narrow it down. To be honest, I'm not the best person to ask because I knew from the start I wanted to do econ. That's one of my actually pro tip is to, if you're into the academic side, look up, I think it's on the Forbes top universities list, the unis you're interested in, because some of them I really liked, but they were really low down on the list. And I just knew when I was then coming to get a job, I don't want to be at, I wanted to give myself the best opportunity by going to a uni that was ranked higher. So anyway, the business school at STSU, specifically economics, was pretty good. So that was a big selling point too.
No, I mean, that's a really good tip. Like, I didn't even know that because I wasn't as focused on the academic side when I was looking at uni. So, I mean, that's really interesting. So what do you do now? And how would you say dealing with being a student athlete has helped you in your day-to-day life now?
Yes. So currently I work for a clothing brand, sustainable clothing brand called Pangaya. But it's also kind of a tech startup, so it's difficult to explain. But long story short, that's actually evolved into a whole new startup with the same founder that I'm a part of. So that will be launching in January. So will make more sense what I do when that actually launches.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not a straightforward answer, but it's essentially around like strategy, business, commercial, quite in there, tech startup type thing. So absolutely love it. Really landed on my feet there. And literally the only reason I got the job was, one, I worked hard and got, a good degree and a good GPA, etc. But tennis was huge on my CV. I wasn't actually planning to come back to England, but because of COVID, I had to. So I hadn't even started looking at jobs here. And then I did as soon as I got back, and applied for quite a few. And then the interviews that I was doing, some of them I just took for the experience, but the tennis thing, everyone's so interested in it. And I think by that point, you've gone through uni, you're like, oh God, I've got to explain the same thing again. Like every time where you've got to explain about tennis. So, but people love it, and it's so interesting. And I think I don't want to, be rude or put anyone down that does just, go to school and go to uni like 99% of people, but it's so boring to a lot of the employers because they've got, hundreds of thousands of applicants that have a 2-1 degree from a good uni. Okay. And then comes along, myself, yourself, like, oh, they did tennis the whole way alongside their degree. Oh, they've traveled, they've been here, they captained the team if that, fits your criteria. So everyone is just like, wow, because you need to stand out within, it's so hard to get a job these days. So yes, it's a huge thing. Like, honestly, can't put it down or put it up enough. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah, I think like when employers look at, as you said, a pile of applicants, already you're going to go to the top of the pile because of communication skills, time management that you learn in college in terms of balancing, work, tennis, social life, all of that. And as you said, like, people want to know about what you did within tennis, and I feel like it is such a powerful thing to have.
And it's the little things that I don't think I even realized at the time until now, that we're, as tennis players, like, quite naturally on the whole pretty good at talking to people. So even in interview processes, it's so helpful because I might be exception here, but I had a lot of difficult conversations with coaches and people along the way, and I would cry my eyes out when I was little, but that all builds you up to be able to come confident to an interview and sell yourself. And it's so important you back yourself. Like, when you realize and get into the job world, you're like, wow, all of these skills I learned from tennis. I think it's, as you said, the time management, the resilience, I think also with tennis, a huge thing is you train like 6 days a week, and at uni at least you get one day off, but you don't know what day it's going to be. So usually it's like midweek, you've got lectures a day. It's not really a day off. For me now, coming and working 5 days a week, and I get a weekend every weekend, and I can plan my life. I'm like, wow, I will never take it for granted. It's so helpful.
No, I think I completely agree with you. I think people, until they go to college, as a student athlete, don't really realize, yes, it's amazing, you get so many opportunities, but there is, we've got to be honest, it is also very tough in terms of time management, and you'll find yourself, running from practice to a lecture or studying for an exam, on the bus. 100%. But it's, the time with your teammates, or that win at like 10 p.m. at night that you'll remember after college. And it is really tough, but I also think the rewards after are, you know,
I
a lot
agree.
as well.
And I think, like, you know, I wouldn't look back and say, oh, I loved the tennis. Like, I do think it's important to, you know, tell people that it is, as you said, it's tough. It's not, you know, especially when everyone else you see from my uni, it was like everyone's going surfing. We were a huge party school. Like, everyone goes to Coachella every year, and we're just there like, oh, like, I've got
a match tomorrow.
Exactly. So it is, you know, as our whole childhoods have been, there's sacrifices for sure. But yeah, it is worth it. If I'm being honest, if I was like a millionaire, I probably would have just dropped and paid for it. But I'm not, and that's not an option. I think it's an option for most people. So it's so worth it to, for sure. Ride it out, get it, graduate with no debt. Like, it's a huge so yeah, I agree.
And last question, what advice would you give any incoming freshmen that are looking at a US college for the whole experience and maybe not necessarily looking at a professional tennis career after?
Okay, I would say really focus on the coach. I think I've heard a few people say that, but it's super important. I really like my coach, like when I met him, and, you know, I still respect him now, had ups and downs. I think most people do with their coach, and when you're working closely with anyone, you will. But I think the coach is the main thing. The team is also important, I think, but also don't be wowed by the team. I think try and take a step back, because obviously they're on their best form for the time that you're there. So I think, if you know someone on the team, it's really helpful. But obviously all of that's pretty obvious. And then I would say location is a huge thing. If you know that you do better in you know, with more natural light, then don't go to a school that's quite dark. If you know, for myself, I was very independent and was traveling a lot on my own before I went to uni. So therefore, then going to a college that was pretty much you're always on campus was not going to work for me. I needed to be able to be free. So those kind of things, because as much as it's amazing, blah, 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 the ins and outs of it every single day can get very overwhelming. So it's what makes you happy, like, and don't try not to get blown away with like the amazing facilities and etc. I agree.
I think the people in the university are just as important as the facilities or something. And I think definitely it's important to note, like, I mean, I was at college for 5 years. Were you 4 or 5?
4. I was out. Sorry.
And no, but it's like in that time I had maybe 25 different teammates, you know, over the span of the 5 years. You're not going to be best friends with every single person on your team, guys, girls, whatever, but it is like a business, and you just have to be civil and get on with it, because at the end of the day, in some respect, you are kind of co-workers.
You are, so for sure. Everyone's on a contract there.
Dealing with conflict, you know, communication between different cultures, different backgrounds, you know, that is, I think, such a massive learning experience, just for everyone that's basically there. And I think, everything you said, I 100% agree with. Thank you so much. Go for it.
Remind me. I think I just want people to know that it is going to be difficult, no matter, even if it's your perfect year. The beginning is always going to be hard. I didn't love my first year, and Pippa actually messaged me pretty much every 2 months, like, how's it going? I remember the first time she did, I was like, I hate it. I really made the wrong choice, like, blah, blah, blah. I had a friend at a different uni that was going to move back to England. So I was like, should I do the same thing? And then she told me to stick it out. And I did. And then I absolutely loved my next 3 years. Like, couldn't have been any better, couldn't be any happier. So I do think it's important to not kind of jump at the first, you know, fall at the first hurdle, and just stick it out, accept that there's going to be changes. I came in with 3 other freshmen who all got dropped from the team after the first year. So, you know, it's, even if I was best friends with them, everything can change. So it's just kind of things for you and trying to, you know, do what's best for you.
No, 100%. I mean, I would say, when I speak about my, you know, US college experience, I had an amazing time in terms of over the 5 years. Couldn't recommend it more. But there were absolutely points where I was arguing with my head coach, or there was an issue within the team, just communication wise, or I thought, like, what am I doing? Do I want to play tennis? And like, I think even if you are at the right place and, you know, you love the school, there are always going to be moments where, you know, not everything's going to plan. But I also think that's life. Like, that's just, so thank you so much for your time in doing this. Really appreciate it. And I'll definitely, when I'm putting this together and stuff, I think it's absolutely amazing, like what you're doing now. And thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. This was fun to chat about it all.